Located in Santa Clara County, Sunnyvale, California nowadays is known mostly as being part of the hip and elite Silicon Valley. It was also the birthplace of the video game industry, as it was the former location for the headquarters of Atari, which is one of the first home gaming systems ever, bringing joy to the children of the 70s and 80s with games like Pac-Man, Pong, and Space Invaders. If you grew up in Sunnyvale around that time period, you might remember it as having another joy creator and kid favorite store, the Toys R Us, located at 130 East El Camino Real. The place where a kid could be a kid was no doubt awesome, as it had all the toys and games you could ever ask for, but depending on your experience at this particular location, your memories might not be so fond. And in fact, they could be downright terrifying. Because Sunnyvale, according to many, is an extreme hotspot for paranormal activity, and the epicenter of it all is the haunted Toys R Us. For years, those who worked there and visited reported strange occurrences happening all throughout its aisles. Toys moving on their own, whispers coming from disembodied voices, unexplained cold spots, shadow figures, and of course, the very famous picture that captured a man standing over a bunch of employees. But the thing about it is that he was never actually there. As it turns out, after a little digging, that figure has a name now, or at least this is who many believe him to be. It's Johnny Johnson, and he once lived and worked on the land here, and it appears like he never left the property, as he's stuck looking for his love. If you went to this building right now, you'd see that where Jeffrey the Giraffe's house once stood is now an REI. Back in 1970, it opened its doors as a wonderful Toys R Us, and about 90 years before that, well, this was just farmland as far as the eye could see, more specifically an orchard. According to the town records, going back to 1881, it shows that the land where the current REI sits was owned by a prominent man in the area named Martin Murphy. A judge and entrepreneur, Murphy was wealthy. After purchasing the land, he built the first wood frame house in the area where he lived with his family, and this family also planted the first orchards in town. Being the influential figure that he was, Murphy was known to throw large parties, host get-togethers from time to time where the community could come together. At one of these gatherings one day, a young Scandinavian studying ministry named Johnny Johnson made his way in. After talking with Murphy, convinced him to let him help with tending to the farm's needs in exchange for a place to stay while he continued his studies. The real truth was that at this party, that's when Johnny first laid eyes on Murphy's daughter Elizabeth. He basically fell head over heels for her. It was love at first sight for him. He needed to find a way into her heart, but unfortunately he'd never get that chance because of a terribly tragic accident. For more than a year, almost every day, he'd see Elizabeth, and they'd talk from time to time, but ultimately she was out of his league, and Johnny knew it. After all, she was a well-off socialite among town, and he was just a poor student from another country trying to make his way. He never was able to muster up the courage to actually let her know how he felt, and he had to watch as Elizabeth would go on to marry another man. Utterly heartbroken and depressed, he found it hard to focus on even the most mundane tasks. One afternoon, Johnny was chopping wood out back when he missed the log completely, which sent the axe straight into his upper thigh, severing an artery. The wound was deep, and before he could get help, not that there was anything anyone could do, the poor young man bled out all over that ground, passed away right there on the spot. Eventually, the stained land would be sold to various owners until it eventually became the Sunnyvale Toys R Us. This true story of tragedy is why most of those who worked at the store believe it's Johnny's ghost that haunts the aisles, filled with action figures, puzzles, and dolls. They believe he's still trying to get Elizabeth's attention, so he can tell her that he loves her, which is why he's always trying to reach out to people in any way he can. He wants to be noticed once and for all. When the doors opened in 1970, right from the start, things here got weird. The first reports were minor, and toys seemed to shift slightly when no one was looking, and employees often found items out of place after closing. These incidents were easy to dismiss at first, attributed to human error or just the natural disorder of a busy retail environment. But as the frequency and strangeness of the events increased, well, so did the unease among those who worked there. If you look around online, there's tons of accounts from people claiming to have visited the store and experiencing something eerie. Others say it wasn't haunted at all, but either way, all these stories are impossible to verify. The encounters from those who work there are different. They're more detailed, and why this place has become so infamous. Some experienced strange things that maybe weren't earth-shatteringly scary, but others faced things and were forced to walk out the doors and never come back. One of the most common reports involved toys that appeared to move on their own. In their day-to-day activities, kids of course run through this store, picking up this and that, and so the aisles get messy. A big part of the employees' jobs were to monitor this and fix the shelves, especially at night. Workers would meticulously arrange the shelves when no one else was around, but turn their backs for a moment. When they came back, they'd find items shifted or even knocked over just seconds later. And toy cars and stuffed animals, things that are generally easy to move, would fall from shelves for no apparent reason. One employee quit one night. They were stacking up board games and aligning them in a nice pattern that the store would be ready for customers the following morning. They were the last one in the place, getting ready to lock up when they heard a loud crash. They headed back to the puzzle aisle to find multiple board games strewn on the floor and others unaligned on the shelf. They knew instantly that it wasn't like one may have been ready to fall and then had a domino effect. No, the entire aisle was dismantled. That was enough for them to run out and never come back. The other terrifying thing, if it is in fact real, that often occurred was employees reporting hearing their names whispered from behind them and even over the intercom. At least one worker, again at night, was out back when they heard someone knocking from the other side of the closed storage closet, asking him to let them out. He of course opened it, thinking he accidentally locked someone in, but when he looked inside, no one was there. This little game happened 3 times that night. By the last one, the employee just quit and walked out, calling it the most terrifying experience of his life. Johnny, as he is said to be still looking for the attention from his love Elizabeth, seems to take particular liking to messing with the female staff. Multiple women have reported going to the employee bathroom where apparently Johnny isn't far behind. As once there, inside this single stall facility, somehow the faucets turn on and off. The water just starts to run, then turns off, and then on again. Some of these women became so terrified by multiple encounters like this, they began refusing to go to the bathroom by themselves altogether. On top of that, girls with long hair have said that in the store, they have felt it being stroked or touched from behind by some unseen hand. All these strange happenings did not go unnoticed by the paranormal community. Word spread, and soon the store attracted the attention of several well-known paranormal investigators and psychics, each eager to uncover the truth behind the hauntings. One of the most notable visits was by psychic Sylvia Brown, where during her investigation she claimed to have contacted the spirit of Johnny. According to her, his spirit remained tethered to the land, still pining for his lost love, Elizabeth. Brown's findings were well documented, and her visit brought significant media attention to the store. Other psychics and mediums also explored the site, each adding their own insights to the mystery. Many confirmed the presence of a restless spirit with these investigations. They often involved seances and psychic readings, some of which were broadcast on television, further cementing the store's haunted reputation. And at least one image is said to have captured the figure of Johnny himself, hanging out within the aisles of the store. And this photo was taken during a seance with store employees who had all had their own experiences. In the image, you can see a white blob in the lower right portion. Many at first glance believe that this was the ghost in question, however, the truth is much freakier. In the background, clearly, is the figure of a man standing, as if he were part of the seance with the rest of the people. Except according to those in attendance, nobody was standing there, as they were all seated the entire time. Now, did everybody make up these stories of voices and toys and faucets turning on and off? Well, I guess that's certainly possible. Maybe everyone was just looking to have some fun, or even a reason to skip out on work. Or this could also just be another example of something strange in this world that nobody can explain. Whichever side of the fence you fall, well, that's totally up to you to decide. So there was the haunted Toys R Us of Sunnyvale, and thank you so much for tuning in. And if you want more content like this, remember to subscribe and hit the bell so you know when we're putting out our new content, 3 new episodes each and every week. And thanks so much for stopping by. I'll see you in the next one.